Hello! Today's story, friends, is Emily Runs Away. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Emily. She had a long black fringe of hair, which was often in her eyes, and she hated sewing. She was at a boarding school in the country, and she liked Miss Prim, the headmistress, and Miss Caudle, the matron, and Mrs. Ladle, the cook. Indeed, she liked everyone and everything at the school excepting Friday afternoons. Every Friday afternoon, all the girls washed their hands with care and cleaned their nails as well, because Friday afternoon was sewing afternoon. Then they gathered in the schoolroom, big girls and little girls together, and sewed and sewed and sewed. Emily pricked her fingers and unthreaded her needle and made dog's tooth stitches. She tossed her fringe in rage and despair. One Friday morning she decided quite suddenly to run away and so miss the hated sewing lesson. She told no one of her plan lest they should tell Miss Prim or Miss Caudle. There was a high green hill away behind the school, and somewhere, she did not know exactly where, on the other side of the hill lived her grandmother. So she decided to pay her a visit. Being the dearest, nicest grandmother in the world, she would surely be pleased to see her granddaughter, and might even let her stay and share her own great feathered bed for one night. Emily made various important preparations for running away. She took her shoe bag, which was red and had "My shoes" embroidered on it in white, and filled it with useful oddments. She put in an apple in case she was hungry, her coral beads because she loved them so, a pair of pajamas in case she stayed away for the night, and a pair of clean socks because her grandmother was very particular about socks being clean. After dinner, when everyone was busy washing their hands, she took her shoe bag and walked out of the front door. She went along the drive and over the stile and set off across the fields for the green hill. The fields were wet and muddy, and her socks were soon dirty. But she did not let a little thing like that worry her. Sometimes she sang "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," and sometimes she said her twice times tables aloud so as not to feel lonely. Soon she came to a stream which looked too cold to paddle across and was too wide to jump over. There was no bridge to be seen, but an old grey donkey was standing nearby. "Could you carry me over the stream?" asked Emily, and the donkey let her climb on his back, and he waded over to the other side. She looked in her bag for a present for him, and the only suitable thing was the apple, so she offered it to him, and he munched it with great pleasure. She crossed two more fields until she came to a barbed wire fence, which was too high to climb over. "I must squeeze through," she thought, but the barbed wire fence did not like being squeezed through. Soon she found herself held fast, caught by her socks and sleeves and collar and even by her hair. It was most uncomfortable. She could move neither backwards, nor forwards, nor sideways. Just then a magpie flew by, and seeing her position, he obligingly fluttered down to her rescue. Very gently, with his black beak, he disentangled her socks and coat and hair and set her free. "Thank you very much," she said, and opening her bag, she let him choose the thing he liked best as a reward. This happened to be the coral beads, which he carried off happily to his nest. Emily sighed and crossed 3 more fields. By this time she had reached a winding lane which went through a tiny village. In the marketplace there was a well, and she stopped to have a drink. But the bucket was broken off the chain, and she could not get at the water. An organ grinder had left his organ by the well while he had a glass of beer with a friend, and his little monkey was sitting on the organ. The little monkey, seeing what she wanted, clambered off the top of the organ, taking his master's tin mug in his paw, the mug that was used for collecting the pennies. He climbed down the chain and brought it back full of water. Emily drank the cool water and felt better. Then she opened her bag to see if there was anything she could give the kind little monkey. Clean socks did not seem very suitable, and the pink pajamas were all she had left. So she spread the legs of the pajamas on the organ to make a soft place for him to sit, and she dressed him up in the pink coat. She rolled up the sleeves so that his paws could be seen, and she did up the 4 pearl buttons. The little monkey chattered and gabbled 1,000 thank yous, because he was used to a hot country and was finding England a very wet and cold place. Then she went on her way, turning every few steps to wave to him. By this time, Emily was tired and hungry, and wondering if she were any nearer her grandmother's than she had been when she started. The green hill looked just as far away as ever. It was beginning to get dark. Farther down the village street, she saw a little girl sitting on the doorstep, eating a thick slice of bread and jam. Another slice lay beside her on the step. Emily stopped and stared at her rosy cheeks and bare legs, and especially at the bread and jam, although she had often been told that it was rude to stare. The bare-legged girl stared back again. "Have a bite," she said suddenly, holding out the second slice. Emily thanked her and took as big a bite as she could. It tasted very good. "Take another bite, eat it all," said the bare-legged girl. So Emily ate it all and enjoyed it, although the jam was gooseberry, the kind she disliked most. Then she licked the jam off her fingers and took out the clean socks. Here at last was somebody who really needed some socks. She gave them to the bare-legged girl, who kicked off her sandals and slipped them on in a minute. Emily went on her way, swinging her empty red bag with "My shoes" worked on it in white. It was getting darker, and a real star shone in the sky, but she was too tired to sing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" now. Shadows shaped like dragons lay across the lane, and there were some queerest rustlings in the hedge. Something black, perhaps a rat, darted out of the ditch and ran over her foot. It was all very strange and frightening. She pulled up her muddy socks and began to run. Just then she turned a bend in the lane, where a particularly dragon-like shadow was hiding, and ran right into the very largest policeman she had ever seen. He was doing something to the lamp of his bicycle. "Wherever are you going?" he asked, in a quiet and ordinary-sized voice. "And will you have a bullseye?" Emily took the bullseye, which was big enough to make talking rather difficult, and tried to explain exactly why she had to run away from school, and exactly where she was going. The large policeman listened very politely. "It seems to me," he said, when she had finished, "that I had better take you back to where you belong. Jump on the back of my bicycle behind me and hold tight. We'll be there in a jiffy." So Emily climbed on the back of the bicycle and held tight, and off they went. The policeman was so large and the bull's-eye still made talk so difficult that she never even asked where they were going. She watched the hedges and the trees flash by and decided that there was nothing so pleasant in the world as riding on a policeman's bicycle. Somehow she did not mind much when they turned down a drive that she knew very well and stopped by a green front door she had opened many times. Miss Prim and Miss Caudle rushed to meet her, followed by Mrs. Ladle carrying a saucepan lid in one hand and a fork in the other. All the boarders, who were supposed to be going to bed, peeped over the banister in their dressing gowns, and the whole school seemed upside down. "Here she is!" cried everybody. "Here she is at last, safe and sound!" The policeman watched and smiled, and seemed pleased as well. "I'm sorry I've nothing nice to give you," said Emily, "but there is only my shoe bag left. Would you like that?" An enormous smile spread over his face, but he said he couldn't accept anything. It had been a pleasure, and besides, he couldn't get his boots into the pretty red bag. Emily looked down at his feet and decided that that was quite true. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.